from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, November 10th. So today we have the moon in Pisces energy here all day. Of course, we shifted into this Pisces energy late last evening, but of course we didn't have any moon aspects with the moon in Pisces. So first of all, the moon in Pisces means that we're closing out a chapter. We're going to go through an emotional purge and release, and especially seeing as, of course, the sun being in Scorpio energy, a water sign, and the moon being in Pisces, a water sign. This is going to definitely bring up all of the feels. Just a reminder, water energy is very cleansing, very purifying. It kind of washes over us, removes the junk and the gunk from the last lunar cycle. All the emotions, all the thoughts, all the changes, all the funk definitely gets washed away before the water energy refreshes us, renews us, if you will, especially in our intuition, our soul, our spirit, our imagination, and in our emotions. We have a lot that we need to kind of get off of our chest, release, purge, leave behind before we move into a brand new emotional chapter, which of course kicks off when the moon shifts in Aries energy. So today is also the very last day that Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, will be in Sagittarius energy as she is shifting into Capricorn energy here on the 11th. And so anytime we have any planet kind of at that final degree of any sign, there's going to be an intensity. That intensity, because Venus is involved, definitely is going to have some heart activations. And in that Sagittarius energy, where we've been kind of jumping around like an ADHD squirrel from one thing to the next, kind of fantasizing about situations and circumstances for our future selves, there's going to be a little bit of a scatteredness in our energy, in our mood, in our attitude. And of course, the Pisces energy has us kind of romanticizing life. We don't want to deal with reality. We just want to live in this like whimsical, dreamy bubble. And sometimes life just pops those bubbles pretty quick and pretty hard. And of course, we have to prevent ourselves from doing a downward spiral when that happens. And so the Pisces energy, as beautiful as it can be, it also can get pretty freaking dark. And seeing as we are in Scorpio season, where change and transformation of the soul and of the spirit, doing shadow work is absolutely the name of the game, we could expect over the next couple of days with the moon in Pisces that, yes, of course, we reach those beautiful high highs, but we also face some ugly low lows. Now, all of that being said, there are 8 different aspects popping off here today. All 8 involve the moon, which means that this is a moon day. Now, Sundays, of course, are ruled over by the sun. And having a moon day on the day that is ruled by the sun, considering the fact that the sun is in Scorpio energy, a water sign, again, another indicator that today is about emotional refinement. It's about emotional release. It's about emotional alignment and refinement on what it is now that we want to be building towards. So let's jump into it. We kick off the day with a little bit of a harsh interaction. We have the moon in Pisces energy. Again, harsh interaction with Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger. And of course, Mars is in this Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac. Now, Mars's mission, although he hasn't been able to take action upon it because he's been in this opposition with Mr. Pluto sitting over there in the final degrees of the Capricorn energy, he's been put on the bench. He's been sidelined, if you will. We have no choice but to sit and observe what it is that we want to do, what we want to pursue, where it is that there's a boldness, a bravery, a courage now taking over for us to want to get into the game and to have the opportunity to make some major moves. Of course, all in alignment with our heart space, with this new level of creativity, this new level of passion and desire. So the problem here is that emotionally speaking, we're not really in a state of action. We're actually sitting in a state of frustration because of the, let's say, sitting on the bench, the sidelined, if you will, the inaction that we're currently experiencing. There is some frustration there. There is some anger. And because we're kind of revved up and not able to kind of channel that energy, we do have a little bit of a festering, if you will, of these not so nice emotions that need to come up into our awareness. Again, this is how shadow work is done. And we ask what those not so nice thoughts and feelings are actually wanting to teach us. Now, again, there's going to be a revelation here to a certain extent if you're leaning in and doing the work on where it is that, again, we have to end something. We have to release something. We have to purge something, get it out of our system before we're going to feel empowered, bold, brave, and courageous enough to actually launch ourselves in this new path, in this new direction. Things don't get much better because the moon in Pisces is going to semi-square, creating just a little bit of tension and conflict with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy, again, helping us with this new version of self. But of course, this is not a positive interaction, which means that we're mostly sitting in the wounds. We have a hard time even seeing what it is that we've healed. We're kind of in this victimhood mentality where everything is wrong. Nothing is going right. We're not feeling so good, not feeling so confident, not feeling so hot. And you best believe that we are taking that energy to an extreme because, of course, we have to beat ourselves up and break ourselves down before we actually get up and brush the dirt off our shoulder and climb out of the dark pit that we willingly fell into. We are going to get a little bit of help shortly thereafter. The moon in Pisces is going to make a very positive interaction with the North Node in Aries energy. Again, trying to get us on the right path, trying to get us in alignment with our soul's mission, our soul's potential. So this is kind of us thinking about the future. We find ourselves in that dark pit. We're thinking about a different realm, a different reality that, again, we want to manifest, we want to bring to life. So now we're projecting ourselves into this imagination fantasy land of what our future vision is actually going to look like. How is that going to feel if we could snap our fingers and just end up in the end goal, the end vision that we're currently trying to conjure up in our imagination? Because of this hopefulness, this wishfulness, this magical soothing that takes place when we detach from our physical reality and we actually project ourselves in an imaginary land that we would be happy to be living in, suddenly perspectives shift, emotion shift, and this is where we start crawling out of that dark pit. The moon then going to make a positive interaction with Mars. So even though we started the day off with a harsh interaction, kind of bringing up all of the anger and frustration in order for us to release it, to change it, to transform it into something better, something more empowering, now we get a second go at it. And you best believe the imagination, the fantasy, the whimsicalness of the hopes, the wishes, the dreams that we just conjured up for our future vision, our future self. Mars is hyped up, ready to go. We are getting heart aligned. It is feeling good in our heart space. We are building a new motivation, a new determination to not let ourselves get back in that dark funk. And instead, we want to charge up and charge forward. Now, here's the interesting part. That takes place 12:50 p.m., again, Eastern Standard Time. We sit in that building energy for hours. 5:21 p.m., though, we do get into a square with Mercury. So the moon, of course, is our heart space. Mercury is our head space. There's a little bit of friction here. First of all, a square is going to illuminate where we're going through growing pains. Now, the moon in Pisces energy, again, focused on what it is that we have to wrap up, what we have to close the door upon, what we have to get out of our systems, out of our lives before we can actually start building towards the new. Now, Mercury, on the other hand, is super optimistic, hella confident, futuristically focused here in the Sag energy. We have big ideas, we have big plans. But here's the thing, it's all based off of what could be, what we want to see actually manifest. Well, the moon in this particular aspect is kind of being focused on what we have to remove out of our lives before we can start building towards something new. Let me also just say, communication, because we have to talk about communication style, where Mercury is concerned, we're already in the pre-retrograde shadow period. So again, every day that we get closer and closer to the 25th, when Mercury actually retrogrades, our mental plane is slowing down. Our conversations, our communication styles are kind of being misinterpreted, misunderstood, so to speak. If you find yourself in a situation and a circumstance where you're having some heart-to-hearts about some very sensitive topics, please understand that your conversation is better off being backburnered at this time. The moon in Pisces is super, super sensitive, and Mercury in the Sag energy does not have a filter. And because there is a lot of triggers, a lot of activations needed in order for us to emotionally be aware of some of the attachments that we've been holding on to in order for us to release that particular energy, to let it go and leave it in the past where it belongs, Mercury, we're going to have a sharp tongue. We're going to be so blunt, so direct that we're almost looking to trigger and activate people, and other people are going to be looking to trigger and activate us, which of course with the moon in Pisces, going to leave some wounds. Please be very careful with your tone, with your words, and with your interactions. Now, the moon in Pisces is then going to make a beautiful interaction with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who of course is nearing the final degrees of the Sagittarius energy. We love Venus in this particular instance being aspected in a positive way because the Pisces energy and Venus, they work very well together. Whatever it is that we can dream up, what we can imagine, what we can fantasize about with the Pisces energy, we're able to actually bring it to life, give it form, give it a structure here in the materialistic realm through Venus. Venus in Sag energy, she's open to experimentation. She's open to exploring different ways of going about her day-to-day life. She's open to seeing her relationship dynamics from a different set of eyes. And because the moon in Pisces, because this is a positive interaction, we are more on the imaginative, whimsical, hopeful, wishful side of things. And of course, emotionally speaking, we're realizing new wants, needs, and desires, and we're actually excited about them. It feels good in our heart space. 8:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The moon is going to come up to, bump into, team up with, conjunct Saturn. Saturn is the Lord of Karma. He rules over roles, responsibilities, systems, structures, foundations, willpower, discipline. He is currently retrograde, but only for a couple of more days. Again, please listen to the November energy forecast. Download your November energy guide if you haven't already. We are going to see Mr. Saturn come out of his retrograde, go direct, basically hours before the full moon in Taurus energy. Please listen to this week's Ascension symptom forecast if you haven't already, to stay ahead of that particular game. But basically, a conjunction is just as much an ending as it is a beginning, and this is going to feel very overwhelming. We're very hypersensitive with the moon in Pisces. We are also in Scorpio season. There's an intensity in our emotional realm. Saturn, typically speaking, brings a little bit of a reality check with him. He brings a little bit of a serious, more somber tone to things. And because of this, first of all, we are going to take on a more serious kind of mood and attitude. Secondary to that, this could be super useful if we can use this energy to our benefit, because it's almost as if it calms down the emotional ocean that the moon in Pisces has us in. So the waves are choppy at times with the moon in Pisces, and it's almost as if the Saturn energy gives us a little bit more seriousness, a little bit more somberness, a little bit more of a maturity in order for us to not lose our shit. And that's the best way I can put it. There's going to be a lot of triggers and activations. That's what we're in right now. We're in a testing period, and we're in a change and transformational period as well. And so the Saturn energy is actually going to benefit us because we're going to take a little bit more of a grown-up, more responsible, more mature approach to some of the emotions that, technically speaking, we just want to throw a tantrum and kind of get out of us. So we're not going to get as swept away with our emotions as we could or would if under a different influence. What this is going to also help us do is realize what it is that we're actually passionate about and where it is that we need to get a little bit more organized, a little bit more structured in the plan that we need to piece together in order for us to, again, provide the endings and the closures needed and required, before we can start building towards something new, something better, something exciting. So we're taking a little bit more of a logical, practical approach to how it is that we're going to bring some of our new goals, visions, and dreams to life. And again, just a reminder, the moon in Pisces is an ending of a cycle. So we're not taking action on things as much as we are kind of alive and well in our inner realm, sorting through and organizing our thoughts, our emotions, and again, getting them in alignment, and then again, refining the details of what we actually want to pursue. This is an inner realm organization. So the last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in Pisces making a positive interaction with Uranus, the great awakener, who is retrograde in Taurus energy. Again, we love Pisces energy and Taurus energy working together because whatever it is that we can dream up, conjure up, fantasize, and imagine in the Pisces energy, we can give it form, we can materialize it, we can bring it to life here in this physical realm through the Taurus energy. But just a reminder, Uranus being retrograde in this Taurus energy is supposed to be highlighting for us where it is that we're overly attached and resisting the changes that we know that we need to make by holding on to the old aspects that the old version of self had built and created. We know that the new version of self, not resonating it, not vibing with it at all. However, why are we holding on to these particular things? Well, because it is a comfortable thing for us to do. We're not quite in the trusting period as we need to be to realize that we have to let go of the old and create a space for the new to actually arrive in before the opportunity knocks on our door and the new arrives. We have to create a space for it. So the good thing here is that the moon and Uranus working together in this way, there's going to be a shock to the system, to our heart space, to our head space in the most positive ways. There's going to be an epiphany, a light bulb moment that shifts our mood, shifts our attitude, because suddenly we have a different perspective. We have a different clarity coming online. Maybe the plans, the steps, the strategies that we need to be taking in order to bring some of these goals, visions, and dreams to life suddenly pop in our head. Maybe where we've been fixated on, the problems and the not so good issues and circumstances, suddenly we have solutions for that. Either way, this is going to kind of light us up in a different kind of way, make us a little bit more excitable, a little bit more passionate, a little bit more, let's call it rebellious, to do what we need to do to close the door on the old and again, prepare to start building towards the new.